Hello, dear listeners. Tonight, we will listen beautiful fairy tales by Brothers Grimm. First comes The Fisherman and His Wife, a story of dark wishes by the quiet sea. Then we will enter a magical castle and the 12 dancing princesses. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let the magic guide you to peaceful dreams. The Fisherman and His Wife. Long ago, near the edge of a wide and restless sea, there lived a poor fisherman and his wife. They lived in a small, broken hut that stood close to the shore. The wind blew through the cracks in its walls, and when it rained, water dripped from the roof. The floor was always damp, and everything inside smelled of salt and fish. But it was the only home they had. Every day, the fisherman rose early in the morning. He took his fishing rod and walked quietly to the sea. He would sit there for hours, looking out over the water. Sometimes the sea was smooth and shining under the sun. Sometimes it was gray and cloudy. Sometimes it was dark and moving in slow, heavy waves. The fisherman was a patient man. He did not complain. He simply cast his line into the water and waited. One day, as he sat there, his fishing line suddenly pulled tight. It was stronger than usual. He carefully drew it up, and when he lifted it from the water, he saw a large flounder shining in the light. But just as he was about to place it in his basket, the fish began to speak. "Please let me live," said the fish in a clear human voice. "I am not an ordinary fish. I am an enchanted prince. If you kill me, it will bring you no good. Put me back into the water, and I will not forget your kindness." The fisherman was surprised and a little frightened, but he was not cruel. "If you can speak like a man," he said, "then I will not harm you." And he gently lowered the flounder back into the sea. The fish disappeared beneath the waves, and the water swirled for a moment before becoming still again. The fisherman returned home. His wife was standing outside the hut. "Well," she asked, "what did you catch today?" "I caught a large flounder," he said. "But it spoke to me and said it was an enchanted prince. So I let it go." "You let it go?" his wife said sharply. "Did you ask for nothing in return?" "No," said the fisherman. "What should I have asked for?" His wife looked around at their poor little hut. "We live in this miserable place," she said. "It is too small and uncomfortable. Go back to the sea. Call the fish and ask for a small, nice cottage for us to live in." The fisherman did not really want to go back. He felt strange about asking for something after being kind. But he wanted peace at home, so he walked again to the sea. This time, the water did not look as clear and bright as before. It had turned slightly green and cloudy. The fisherman stood at the shore and called for the flounder, asking him to rise because his wife wished for something. Soon the fish appeared near the surface. "What does your wife want?" it asked. "She wants a small cottage instead of our hut," the fisherman replied quietly. "Go home," said the fish. "She already has it." The fisherman returned, and where the old broken hut had once stood, there was now a neat little cottage with a garden full of flowers. There was a small kitchen, a warm room with a bed, and even a little yard with chickens. His wife was very pleased. For a time, she seemed happy. But not for long. After some days, she looked around and said, "This cottage is still too small. We could live better than this. Go back to the fish. ask for a large stone castle. The fisherman sighed, but he went again to the sea. Now the water was darker and moved in slow, uneasy waves. He called for the fish, and it rose once more. "What does she want now?" asked the flounder. "She wants a stone castle," said the fisherman. "Go home," the fish answered. "She already has it." And indeed, when the fisherman returned, the cottage was gone. In its place stood a great stone castle with tall windows, wide stairs, and servants waiting at the door. His wife stood inside dressed in fine clothes. Now she lived like a lady. But soon she wanted more. "I do not wish to be just a lady," she said. "I want to be king." The fisherman was troubled, but he went again to the sea. The sky was gray, and the water had grown rougher. The wind blew strongly. He called the fish. "What does she want now?" asked the flounder. "She wants to be king," he said. "Go home," replied the fish. "She is king." And so she was. She sat on a golden throne, wearing a crown. Soldiers stood at her doors. The fisherman bowed before her. Yet her heart was still not satisfied. "Being king is not enough," she said after some time. "I want to be emperor." Again the fisherman went to the sea. Now the waves were higher, and the water was dark and restless. The sky looked heavy. He called the fish. "She wants to be emperor," he said. "Go home," said the fish. "She is emperor." And so she ruled over many lands. But still, it was not enough. "I want to be pope," she said one morning. The fisherman felt fear in his heart, but he went again. The sea was now almost black. The wind howled, and the waves crashed loudly. He called the fish. "She wants to be pope," he said. "Go home," the fish answered. "She is pope." Now she sat in a great church, higher than kings and emperors. Yet even then, she could not rest. She lay awake in her grand palace, though she already ruled like no other woman in the world. The walls were covered in gold, servants waited in silence, and the world bowed before her, yet her heart burned with restlessness. Before dawn, she rose and walked to the window. The sky was still dark, and the first pale light of morning was just beginning to push away the night. "Look," she said to her husband, who stood near her in fear and confusion. "The sun rises because it must. The moon shines because it must. But they do not rise because I command them. What is the use of power if I cannot control even that?" The fisherman felt a coldness move through him. "Wife," he whispered, "what are you saying?" "I want to be like God," she said slowly. "I want the sun to rise when I speak. I want the moon to disappear when I wish it. I want to rule everything." The fisherman stepped back as if struck. "That cannot be," he said. "No fish can grant such a thing." But she turned on him with burning eyes. "Go," she said. "Go at once. I will not rest until I am above all." His legs felt heavy as stone as he left the palace. The world outside had changed. The air felt thick. The birds were silent. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. When he reached the sea, it was no longer merely dark. It was wild and terrible beyond anything he had ever seen. The sky was black as night, though it was morning. Thunder rolled across the heavens. Lightning split the clouds. The sea rose in towering waves, crashing against each other like mountains colliding. The water was not blue or green, it was black, swirling and boiling as if something deep beneath it was stirring in anger. The fisherman could hardly stand upright. The wind tore at his clothes and pushed him back. Still, trembling, he stepped forward and called into the storm. "Flounder," he cried, his voice almost lost in the roaring wind. "Please come. My wife wishes for something again." For a moment there was only thunder. Then, slowly, the raging water before him grew strangely still in one small circle. From that circle, the flounder rose. But now the fish did not shine gently as before. Its eyes seemed deep and dark, and its voice, when it spoke, sounded distant and heavy. "What does she want now?" it asked. The fisherman fell to his knees. "She wishes to be like God," he said, barely able to speak. "She wishes to command the sun and the moon." The sea groaned like a living thing. The sky flashed white with lightning. The fisherman dared not lift his eyes. There was a long silence. Then the flounder spoke, very quietly, yet the words seemed to echo through the storm. "Go home." The fisherman's heart pounded. "Will her wish be granted?" he asked in fear. "Go home," repeated the flounder, its voice now cold as the deep sea. "And you shall see." Suddenly the small circle of calm water vanished. The storm roared back with double fury. The fisherman struggled to his feet and made his way back, fighting against the wind, his mind filled with dread. When he reached the place where the great palace had stood, he stopped. There was no palace, no castle, no throne, no servants. Only the small, broken hut by the sea, bent and weathered as before. The wind howled around it just as it once had. He pushed open the crooked door. Inside, sitting on the same old wooden stool, in the same dim light, was his wife. She wore the same old clothes she had worn at the beginning. The room smelled again of salt and damp wood. She looked up at him, and for the first time, she said nothing. Outside, the storm slowly faded. The thunder rolled away into the distance. The waves sank back into their old rhythm. The sea slowly grew quiet again, and the wind became soft. And the lesson remained carried by the sound of the waves, that a heart without contentment will never find peace, no matter how much it receives. The 12 Dancing Princesses. Long ago, there was a king who had 12 daughters. They were all beautiful, but each in her own way, and the youngest was said to be the most gentle of them all. They slept together in one large chamber, where their 12 beds stood side by side. Every night, when they went to sleep, the king himself locked the door and kept the key beneath his pillow. Yet each morning, when the door was opened, a strange thing was discovered. The princess's shoes, which had been new the night before, were found worn through at the soles, as though they had been danced in all night long. No one could understand how this happened, for the door had been locked, and no sound had been heard. The king grew troubled and announced that whoever could discover where his daughters went at night, and how their shoes were worn out, should marry one of them and become king after him. But if any man tried and failed to discover their secret within 3 nights, he would lose his life. Many princes came from faraway lands, hoping to solve the mystery. Each was welcomed warmly and given a chamber next to that of the princesses. They were told to keep watch for 3 nights. But every evening, one of the princesses brought the prince a cup of wine before he lay down. Each prince drank the wine, and soon after fell into such a deep sleep that he could not wake, no matter what happened. And each morning, the shoes were worn through once again. After 3 nights, each prince paid for his failure with his life. Now it happened that a poor soldier, who had been wounded in battle and could no longer serve in the army, was traveling along a road that led to the king's city. As he walked, he met an old woman in the forest. She asked him where he was going. "I do not know," he said, "but I have heard of the king's daughters and their strange dancing, and I think I might try my luck in discovering their secret." The old woman looked at him kindly and said, "You will succeed if you are wise. Do not drink the wine that is offered to you at night. And take this cloak. When you put it on, you will become invisible." The soldier thanked her deeply, for he felt she spoke the truth. When he reached the palace, he offered himself as a watcher. The king agreed and warned him of the danger. That evening, he was led to his chamber beside that of the princesses. As before, the eldest princess brought him a cup of wine. He pretended to drink it, but secretly poured it away when she was not looking. Then he lay down on his bed and began to snore loudly, as though in deep sleep. When the princesses heard him snoring, they laughed softly. "He will not trouble us," said the eldest. Then they rose from their beds and opened a hidden door beneath the youngest sister's bed. A secret staircase led down into the earth. One by one, they descended. The soldier quickly rose, threw on the cloak of invisibility, and followed them closely. As he stepped onto the staircase, he accidentally trod upon the youngest princess's dress. She cried out that someone had touched her, but the eldest said she was foolish and afraid of nothing. At the bottom of the staircase, they came to a marvelous underground world. There stood a forest of trees whose leaves were made of pure silver, and they shimmered and rang softly as they moved. The soldier, wishing to bring proof, broke off a small branch. The sound echoed sharply, and again the youngest princess trembled, but the eldest calmed her. They walked further and came to a forest of golden trees, shining warmly in the dim light. Again the soldier broke off a branch. Then they passed into a forest where the leaves were made of diamonds, sparkling like stars. He broke a branch there too. Beyond the forests lay a great lake, dark and still. 12 boats waited upon its surface, and in each boat stood a handsome prince. The princesses stepped into the boats, and the invisible soldier stepped into the boat of the youngest princess. She remarked that her boat seemed heavier than usual, but again her elder sister dismissed her fears. Across the lake they rowed, toward a magnificent castle lit by thousands of glowing lamps. Music drifted through the air. Inside the castle was a grand hall where the 12 princes danced with the 12 princesses. The dancing was joyful and endless, and the floor shone beneath their moving feet. The soldier stood invisibly among them and watched as they danced until their shoes were worn completely through. When it was nearly morning, the princesses said farewell to their partners, crossed the lake once more, passed through the shining forests, and climbed back up the secret staircase to their chamber. They removed their worn shoes and lay down just before dawn. The soldier returned to his bed and began snoring loudly again. For 3 nights this happened. Each time, he followed them and gathered proof, the silver, gold, and diamond branches. On the 3rd morning, he went before the king. "Well," said the king, "where do my daughters go at night?" The soldier told him everything: the hidden staircase, the forests of silver, gold, and diamonds, the lake, the 12 princes, and the dancing in the underground castle. He laid the shining branches before the king as proof. The king summoned his daughters and demanded the truth. Seeing that their secret was known and that proof had been brought, they confessed. The king was pleased that at last the mystery was solved. He asked the soldier which daughter he would choose as his bride. The soldier, being no longer young, chose the eldest princess. And so their wedding was celebrated with great joy, and the soldier became heir to the kingdom. As for the 12 princesses, they danced no more in secret beneath the earth. And so the mystery of the worn-out shoes was ended. Now imagine the quiet palace at night, the lamps dimmed, the music faded, and the forest of silver leaves standing still in the darkness beneath the world. Let the soft echo of distant dancing carry you gently into sleep,